Today, I will tell you the fascinating story of one day when a very interesting man invited me to visit him. I am standing on a jagged cliffside in Maine, the kind of place where the wind feels like it's trying to tell you a secret. Behind me is a house that looks like a fortress of glass and cedar. It's worth more than most people earn in 3 lifetimes. But I'm not here for the architecture. I'm here because of an email. 3 sentences long. It read, "I am 101 years old. I have $10 million and a mountain of regret. I am the man everyone wants to be, and I am here to tell you why that is a catastrophe. Come quickly." His name is Arthur. He is a ghost of the American dream. He was a high-stakes litigator in Manhattan, a man who moved markets with a single phone call. He has the legacy, the prestige, and the wealth. But as I sat across from him, I noticed something chilling. In this massive, multi-million-dollar home, the only sound was the ticking of a grandfather clock. No laughter. No footsteps of grandchildren. Just silence bought at a premium price. In the next 20 minutes, Arthur is going to break down the financial lie we've all been told. He's going to explain why saving for retirement might be the biggest mistake of your life. He's going to reveal the price of a Tuesday, a concept that will change how you view your 9-to-5 forever. And at the very end, he's going to show me the one thing in this house that actually has value. It's a small, wooden object that cost him $10,000 in lost wages, but it's the only thing keeping him alive today. If you're currently grinding for a future you haven't defined, pay attention. This isn't finance video. This is a rescue mission for your soul. Arthur's study is lined with leather-bound books that have never been read. He looks at me with eyes that are sharp, despite his age. "You want to know how it starts?" Arthur asks. "It starts with fear. I grew up in the late 1920s. I saw my father, a proud man, reduced to tears because he couldn't buy bread. I made a pact with the universe. I will never be hungry. I will be bulletproof." He succeeded. By 30, Arthur was a rising star. He describes the 1950s and 60s in New York not as a golden age, but as a battlefield. "In my 30s, I thought a 60-hour work week was a vacation. I wanted to be the guy who turned the lights off in the office. I wanted the corner office not because of the view, but because it meant I had finally escaped the poverty of my childhood." But here is the psychological trap Arthur fell into, the same one you're likely in right now. It's called the Hedonic Treadmill. "When I made my first $100,000, Arthur says, I felt like a king for exactly 1 week. Then, I looked at the man who had $500,000. Suddenly, my $100,000 felt like failure. I told my wife, Sarah, just one more promotion, just one more big client, and we can finally go to the lake house. We can finally breathe. But the finish line is a ghost. It moves every time you get close to it." Arthur shows me his old ledgers from the 70s, pages of meticulous notes on stocks, bonds, and compound interest. "I was a paper king," he scoffs. "Wealthy on every spreadsheet, but a stranger in my own home. I was providing a lifestyle for a family I only saw when they were asleep. I was the CEO of my firm, but an intern in my own marriage." He describes the golden handcuffs. The more he earned, the more his lifestyle inflated. Bigger mortgage, private schools, country club fees. He wasn't working for freedom anymore. He was working to maintain the cage he had built. "I was a prisoner of my own success," he says. "And the tragedy is, I was proud of my chains. I had a friend named Leo," Arthur continues, leaning back. "We grew up in the same neighborhood. I went to Harvard Law. Leo went to a trade school to learn carpentry. In our 40s, I was embarrassed to introduce him to my colleagues. He wore flannel. I wore bespoke silk. He smelled of sawdust. I smelled of expensive cologne." Arthur tells a story about a specific Saturday in 1985. He was in his office on the 42nd floor, agonizing over a merger. He looked out the window and saw a park. Through a pair of binoculars he kept for strategic views, he saw Leo. Leo was sitting on a bench eating a sandwich with his 2 sons. They were laughing so hard one of the boys fell off the bench. "I checked my watch," Arthur says. "My hourly rate was $600. I looked at Leo and thought, that man is losing $600 an hour by sitting in that park. I felt superior. I felt like the winner of life. But now, looking back from the age of 101, Arthur's perspective has flipped 180 degrees. Leo passed away 10 years ago, Arthur says softly. I went to his funeral. It wasn't a cathedral, it was in a small community center. But you couldn't get through the door. There were hundreds of people. A young woman stood up and said, Leo didn't just build my kitchen, he taught me how to believe in myself when I was a single mother with no hope. A man stood up and said, Leo was the father I never had. Then I thought about my own funeral, Arthur says, his voice trembling. Who will come? My law partners? They'll be too busy billing hours. My clients? They'll hire another shark before my body is cold. I realized that Leo was the true billionaire. He didn't accumulate capital. He accumulated impact. He didn't have a 401k. He had a 401, kingdom of people who loved him. I had the numbers, but Leo had the life. This leads to Arthur's first major lesson. Currency isn't just paper. It's the ability to be present. If you are paying for your life by giving up your presence, you are overpaying. Arthur asks me to follow him to a small room at the back of the house. It's a nursery, perfectly preserved but empty. This is where he tells the story of Maya. It was June 1972, he begins. The air was thick with the smell of cut grass. I was in my study preparing for the biggest deposition of my career. If I won this case, I would become a senior partner. It was the summit of my mountain. His daughter, Maya, who was 7 at the time, knocked on the door. She was holding a baseball and a worn-out leather glove. Daddy, can we play catch just for 10 minutes? Arthur remembers the feeling of irritation. I said, Maya, not now, I'm doing this for us. Don't you want that new bike? Don't you want the trip to Disney? I was using my labor as a shield against her needs. She didn't say anything. She just looked at the ball, put it on my desk, and walked out. She didn't cry. She just accepted that her father was a machine. Arthur won the case. He got the senior partnership. He bought the Hamptons house. But the cost was hidden. A few weeks later, I went to her and said, Okay, Maya, I have time now. Let's play. And she looked at me with eyes that were suddenly much older and said, That's okay, Daddy. I learned how to play with the neighbor's boy instead. You go back to work. Arthur's voice cracks. That was the day I went bankrupt and I didn't even know it. I spent 3,000 hours that year earning the money to buy her things, but I missed the only window where she actually wanted me. You see, childhood has an expiration date. There is a specific Tuesday in your child's life that is the last time they will ever ask you to play. If you miss it because you're answering a critical email, you have committed a financial crime against your own heart. He explains that Maya is now 58. They are polite to each other. They talk about weather and the news. But there is no warmth. I am a benefactor to her, not a father. I paid for her Ivy League education, but I never paid attention. Now, I have $10 million, and I would give every cent of it to go back to that Tuesday in 1972 and throw that damn ball. But the universe doesn't take refunds. Arthur pulls out a whiteboard, a habit from his law days, and writes a 0. Most Americans are taught to save, 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 he says. But if you die with $5 million in your bank account, that is $5 million worth of life energy you wasted. You worked for free. You gave your best years to a corporation in exchange for numbers you never used. That is not success. That is a math error. He introduces the concept of the experience dividend. Imagine you go to Europe when you are 25, Arthur says. It costs you $3,000. It seems like a lot. But for the next 75 years, you will tell stories about that trip. You will smile when you remember that cafe in Rome. That $3,000 investment pays a dividend of joy every single year for the rest of your life. Now imagine you wait until you are 70 to take that trip. You have more money, sure. You stay in a 5-star hotel, but you only get to enjoy the memory for 10 or 20 years, and your back hurts. You can't walk the cobblestones. The dividend is tiny. Arthur looks at me intensely. The ROI on life is highest when you are young, but we are told to spend our youth building a pile of money we can only enjoy when we are too old to use it. It is a scam. I bought a Ferrari at 65. Do you know what it felt like? It felt like a car. If I had bought a beat-up Jeep at 22 and driven it across the country with my friends, that would have been a treasure. At 65, it was just an ego trip. He challenges the audience. What are you waiting for? A certain number in your 401k? By the time you hit that number, the version of you that could have enjoyed the money will be dead. Don't wait to live. Invest in the experience dividend now. As the interview comes to a close, Arthur reaches into a drawer and pulls out a small, hand-carved wooden bird. It's simple, slightly asymmetrical, and made of pine. "This is my greatest achievement," he says. "In 1974, I had a flight booked to Chicago to close a massive deal. It would have netted me a $15,000 commission, about $90,000 in today's money. But that morning I woke up and felt empty. I saw Leo out in his garage carving wood. I called my office. I told them I was sick. I lied. I went over to Leo's and spent 8 hours learning how to carve this bird. I lost the client. My boss nearly fired me. I was terrified. But for those 8 hours, I wasn't Arthur the lawyer. I was just a man. I smelled the wood. I felt the grain. I laughed with my friend. We talked about God and love and what it means to be a man. Those 8 hours are the only part of 1974 I can still feel in my bones." He holds the bird up to the light. "The $15,000 I lost that day is irrelevant. I don't even know where that money would be now. But this bird, it represents the one time I chose life over labor. It's the only investment I ever made that didn't depreciate." Arthur walks me to the door. The main sunset is painting the sky in colors that no amount of money could buy. "Listen to me," Arthur says, gripping my arm. "You're watching this on a screen. You're probably thinking about your to-do list, your debt, your career ladder, but look at me, I am at the end. I am the man who won the game. And I am telling you, the game is rigged. If you win the game but lose your soul, you've lost. Money is a tool, not a destination. Use it to buy time. Use it to buy experiences. Use it to buy the ability to say no to a boss and yes to a child. Don't write a ledger. Write a story. Because when the ink dries and the book of your life is closed, the only thing that matters is if the story was worth reading." He looks back into his big, empty, silent house. "Go play catch," he whispers. The ball is waiting. As I drive away, I realize I'm not thinking about my bank account. I'm thinking about who I need to call. What story are you writing today? Leave a comment below. What is one experience dividend you're going to invest in this week? Don't wait. Arthur's clock is ticking, and so is yours. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.